Okay. Let's see if I'm actually um, back up and live here. What's up? What's up? What's up? I'm actually back and live. So sorry for everybody for the chaos. I also am sorry that there's like just a total wrong description in this video and whatever. I need to get better at streaming. And in fact, if you watch the next Scott Tries video that I just recorded, you're going to see that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying out a bunch of streaming services. So this is a streaming service called Go Light Stream. It looks like it's built in React, and I am limited to 30 FPS 720p. Unfortunately, big ol' unfortunately, that said, hey, it's not too terrible, and I'll do the best to zoom in. I want to be talking a little bit about in this video the new custom video player that we're working on, and just give you a little bit of insight to some code, okay? So check it out, check it out, check it out, check it out. I have level up tutorials booted up now. If you caught any of the other failed attempts, you'll know that I needed to get my application started. Here it is. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So we're working on a new video player. Now you might be wondering why. Why are you working on a new video player? New video player, well, the current video player within the site is all YouTube embeds, which is fine. It's fine. But there's a lot of things I hate about it, right? For instance, YouTube's popping up with this watch later and come in here, and then when you're all done, it gives you suggested videos. And not to mention that, but there's just so many little things I can't do with this player that I really want to do. Like, I don't want it to come up with all these suggested things. I want you to go to the next video in the course. How many course platforms have you ever been on that have this YouTube embed? So part of upgrading that experience for us involves creating a new player. Now to create this new player, actually let's go to Seriesizer. To create this new player, we made a fake little test here. Now this is a fake test series, and this test series is going to be using the Cloudflare streaming platform. Now, if you don't know anything about Cloudflare, we just did a really good episode on Cloudflare on Syntax, a podcast I do with Wes Boss at syntax.fm. We didn't talk about Cloudflare streaming because Wes doesn't use it, and I don't use Cloudflare at all until now. Now I'm very into Cloudflare. Cloudflare has this really great end-to-end video store, encode, and everything. So many of these other platforms, they do encoding, right? Like Bitmoving is just straight up encoding. You got to worry about hosting on S3, then you got to connect the two, then you got to worry about all that code. We're looking for something a little bit more simple, something a little bit more like the YouTube setup that we currently have, where we can just upload a video, then access it. Their API is really super good. You just, hit up a URL and it gives you all the videos, and you can search by text strings. So the only downside to this all is that we gotta have our own player now. So our own playlist or our own player here is this thing I've been working on. It's kind of interesting and fun, and I'm writing it from scratch in React. So I wanted to show you a little bit about this player itself and how it works. And it's a little janky right there. You don't have to work on that one. There's definitely a lot of little things in here that I'm still tweaking on. So if you see things that are really bad looking, obviously the CSS is a major part. For instance, right now, this back and forward buttons are black and here and whatever, and yeah. Also, this control bar shouldn't be here. The way this should be working, if I comment this is active out, is active. Let's wait for this. My build process is going to be really slow with this. But first, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the design of this thing, how it works, whatever, and then we'll get into the code a little bit, because the code here is sick. And you'll see that there's a lot of things that are gray and underlined. It's rapidly evolving, rapidly changing. So don't worry too much about that. So Okay, this is what the player should look like, right? Here it is. Hey, you click this, that falls down, and then you get this nice little bit here. When you hover over, you get the classic animations. You can do the forward 30 seconds, backwards 30 seconds, backwards to the beginning, pause it, play it, all that good stuff, right? The stuff that you do with video players. We're obviously adding in volume controls and speed controls and all those things as well, but for right now, this is it because we're writing it all custom. And then by we, I said I'm writing it all custom right now. So here we do. By the way, my DNS did go over okay. I have lots of complicated DNS records, and it all just worked out fine. So shout out to Cloudflare. Okay, so here's our player. Pretty cool, right? So let's talk about the thought process for making this, the things that we did, the things that we looked at, things that I looked at. But this player is contained in itself, essentially its own thing, right? It's its own thing. And we need to be able to access state in this thing throughout any part of it. For instance, we need to access the instance of the video over and over again. Looks like my camera died, so that's great. Is my camera wigging out for you guys? If my camera's wigging out, let me know. I will switch to the other camera. I don't know what's going on here. It looks fine for those of you who are wondering, I'm using this live app. It looks fine here, but maybe it doesn't necessarily look fine for you. Either way, I'll keep talking here. Sorry. It seems like I can't do a live stream without it going poorly, which is one of the reasons why I'm looking for new live streaming software. Okay, back to all of this. Who knows what's going on with my camera? This is the player, right? It's its own contained little thing, and it's all needs to access things like the player instance. It needs to access all of the status if it's being controlled, or all of the different aspects of it. It needs to be accessed through everything. Now, here's a fun little thing. When I first started looking into this, I took a component called I think it's called like Reactive Video or something, and shout out to them for their work. But let me tell you, that thing is over engineered to all get up. And maybe it has to be because it has to be so customizable and configurable for all these broad use cases. But since our use case is not that broad, we could do it very easily. And let me see if I can pull up that GitHub repo for that project. And I don't want to call them out because it's good code and it works really well. And to be honest, the whole thing is like pretty darn neat. Let me pop this open. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. If those of you who have spent time in sort of new React versus old React, you'll see what I'm talking about. So here we are. This is this is Video React. Video React is a component. Again, this thing looks really nice. It's very complex in this code. For instance, the player, look at all these props, is seeking, on seeking. Like, you have to have all these events. I don't want to have any of this stuff. Whether or not it's fluid or plays in line or whatever, I just wanted to take care of these things for me. And sure, again, my component is very specific to me. So one of my pet peeves about this repo is they have a lot of things where it's like get default children, where it's a whole bunch of React components with orders and whatever, then get children that adds in the Redux store and then outputs it all somewhere down here. The biggest thing I have with this repo is that it's over-engineered like crazy because of Redux in particular, right? You have some sort of an action, let's say, you can't even see it here, but let's say you have like an on-play action. Well, you have to, let's find it. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to like talk about this for too much because again, this component, this library is awesome. So I'm not hating on anyone who's worked on this. It's just a lot of code. Let's see, here's a good one in their actions. I believe if you go to their actions, if you go to their their player actions. It's just like one thing calls another thing, calls another thing, calls another thing. And that was always my problem with the Redux. Here's their, you know, just so much extraneous stuff, like just to play the video. Did you know just to play the video, you just have to have the video.instance or the instance of the video and do .play. So like really what I don't understand is why Redux is needed to do all this stuff. But again, this thing needs to be configurable and big. Just some fun little aside there. That was the inspiration. In fact, what I even did is I copied that repo and moved it into my repo just so that I could start deleting stuff, right? You'll notice that I even have, I think this is their player.js. Look at this. Look at this file. Holy mammoth. This thing is big, right? I don't want this. So if we look at my player, which is appropriately named new player, it is 56 lines of code, and it's not fully functional yet, but it has like most of the code needed. And so what did I do differently than them? Well, one, I didn't do Redux because that's crazy for this kind of thing. It really doesn't matter. You click play, the video plays. You click pause, the video pauses. And a lot of it is stored inside of this player wrapper. Let me bump up the font size here. You can see it's a little bit better. Player wrapper here is maybe not the most appropriate name because although it is a wrapper, it's not like a visual wrapper. What it is more of is a context wrapper. Okay, so this is context. And so what I did is I have some initial values, whether it is it's initially has started, is playing, is hover, whatever. I know state machines people aren't going to like this. I get it. That's cool. But then we create the player context. So we define our initial state, and then we create the context with the initial state. Then we write some hooks to pull out that state, such as use is hover, which is a custom hook, use state, use state, use state. And this is all the current time, whether or not it's playing or has it started. And one of these is the player itself, which is going to be the instance of the player. Okay? So this is the context, and this is setting up basically the state for our entire video player. So instead of Redux, we're using context, and this is doing this all in like 40 lines of code here, pretty much. We're just passing these into our context, and then we get to use our new player. And this little bind is just to determine whether or not it's being hovered or not. Okay, so new player itself, keep in mind this is the thing immediately wrapped in, and the new player is being able to pull all of this stuff out of context. In fact, let me even clean this up a little bit to make it easier to read. All of this stuff is being pulled out of context by a custom hook that I built called use player. Use player is fantastically simple. I talked about this in another code blog. I think I talked about this fairly recently, where if you have a use context and you have your player context here, or whatever your context is, you can do export const, use the thing from, return the results of use context. Meaning that I don't have to bring in player context to each time I want to use it or use context. All I have to do is say, use player. And if I use the player, I can then pull out any of the things within my context, which is why React Context is so awesome. You can say, give me the player, like the instance of the player. You give me the functions to set the current time, set the player, or if it is playing. I created a ref here using useRef, and this stream tag is a Cloudflare thing. So you see this stream tag being red underlined, right? It's weird. It's weird. Cloudflare says, hey, pass the ID into the stream tag and have our script loaded, and it just works. But everybody hates the stream tag. React hates the stream tag. The browser hates the stream tag. Everybody hates the stream tag. But it works, so whatever. We have this, so the stream just gets our video ID, the ref to reference the actual player. So when I'm saying all we have to do is do .play on the player instance, what I'm saying is we put a ref on the thing here, and then the player using an ISO layout effect, which is really just a use layout effect, we are setting the player to playerref.current. Instead of being able to pass this props down or whatever, we're doing everything through context. So if you're curious about this use layout or ISO layout effect, it's use layout effect. But since this site is server-side rendered, this code runs on the server, you need to take some precautions there, and this is a very basic little little tiny component you can see here that I did not write myself, but it functions the exact same way as use layout effect. Just works with SSR. Okay, so bingo, bango, bango, bingo, bingo, bango. We got all that going, right? So that's really the meat and potatoes of this whole thing is the stream tag and the context, right? Everything out of that is just React stuff. And by that I have the famous, I should say famous, Dan Abramov use interval example, which is just fantastic. That blog post is great. I'm obviously using that code verbatim. I think, I don't know, I just copied and pasted it. And I have whether or not the video is playing and we're doing a use interval. If the video is playing, we're setting the current time and setting the player. Okay, and we can control that if we want it to be less choppy, more choppy, whatever. So we have the stream here, and then we have our player. Now, if the player exists, as in if the video has loaded, then we're free to load the big play button or the control bar. Now, the big play button, named because of the video reactor repo. I didn't come up with that name. A lot of these components are named after their counterparts in that other library. This is just basic button. It's a basic B here. We got a basic button. You hover over it, and it does this neat little thing. Okay. And from here, we have this play button, and we're using a little library called Framer Motion. We have a course on Framer Motion right now. So sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. Sorry. Okay, gotta get better at streaming here. So we have this play button, right? It's using a little library called Framer Motion, which allows us to do some neat things. For instance, because this play button is really just a style or a styled motion dot button, as in it's a styled component where we get some CSS, but in addition to that, it's a motion dot button, meaning we can do some cool motion stuff on it. All I had to do was put this Y hover -20, and it now behaves like this. Boop, 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 boop. And it even has some nice little physics-based stuff. You know what? I was wondering if that 20 was a little extreme. I'm going to bump it down to 10. No biggie, no biggie, no biggie. So here we have our while hover. And then next we also have an animate on here. Now what's up with this animate? Well, the animate is going to determine the exit animation for this. We could do an exit animation on unmount, but this big button does not unmount. It just simply hides itself, okay? So we have this. If the video has started playing, the opacity should be 0, and it should go downwards by 100 pixels, and pointer events should be none, meaning you can't click on it. Because this button is this whole thing. All right, this 10 pixels a little bit nicer. Definitely likes this 10 pixels. So watch this animation when I click on this. When I click on this, I click on this and it drops down like that. Pretty cool. Sorry, I'm getting blown up right now. Live stream, the light stream is sending me a bunch of stuff. Okay, so you can see when I click on that neat little animation, it falls down, right? And that's being done all through a React Spring with just a quick state toggle. Hey, is the video playing? If the video is playing, drop down. And once again, that toggle is just being done via context. So just like we had in our new player, instead of pulling props out or anything, I'm saying everything comes from use player. Set is playing, player has started, set has started. When you click on the big button, we say, hey, player instance, play. Then set playing to true and set has started to true. Yeah, it's simple, right? The other one was trying to do a lot of, I think this is a very valid approach, by the way. So I don't want to say anything negative about this, because I think this is a much more valid approach than what I'm doing, but since I'm working within Cloudflare's stream thing, it's not working out for me with their API. But what their video is doing is it's telling the video to play, and then the Redux system is actually waiting for the video to send its own message saying it's playing before it like updates the whole thing. So there's this weird talking back and forth where I'm thinking in my mind that the context store is sort of the source of the truth here. Click play, it said it's playing, has started playing. Sure, if there's a failure here, then that's something, that may cause issues. But I don't think it will fail. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. So we have this on click, it's going to start playing. And these set values, again, these are coming just straight from context. It's really nice and easy. I can pull these values out, has started, is playing, whatever. I can pull those values out at any given point and just use them in any component. So that's really the fanciness of the background button. Everything else is just straight CSS. This is the big button. And let's talk about the control bar. Again, another name of a component that I stole from that other library. But the control bar here, you can see the volume and duration and playback rate are still being implemented. But everything else is really nice and easy. If we scroll down here, you can see the control bar is once again using is hovered and has started from use player. And those are really just changing the animations. We're changing the transition to be, if it's active, we're giving it a delay, which means that, so if the video is playing and I hover off of it, it has a delay of half of a second. You'll notice that the animation doesn't happen right away, but there's no delay when I hover on it, okay? And this is all done through React's framer motion with this prop here. I have some initial properties. Okay, this is what it should be initially. It's going to animate to this. I don't know if I need these initials, but I was getting some weirdness on load, so I put them there. I have the progress bar, which is its own thing. I have a couple of flex containers, which is our own design component. We have our own element system. You'll see it from time to time in our code as import blank from elements. It's all of our level up tutorials elements. Look at all these. And so I just have a basic flex container, giving it a space between, then I'm giving it another flex container, have the play toggle, replay, control timer, forward control, full screen toggle down here, and eventually this other stuff, which really just puts us all in a little bit of a flex right here, okay? So this is, all pretty neat here so far, but at the end of the day, you have a button, like a React button. It's firing an event to context, right? Context is taking care of that, and here everything is working the way you'd expect it to. So once you get past the initial points of like, oh crap, I have to write all of these video control components, it really becomes just a matter of implementing and making it look nice. Because at the end of the day, whether or not it's the play toggle or replay controller, any of these things, all we're doing is saying player.pause. Player.play just does its thing, right? Okay, question from the audience. Does it have speed control? Skip some seconds with the arrow keys. It does not yet. Mine does not yet, but the library that I'm sort of basing it on, not code-wise, but functionality-wise, this Video React does have all of those things. So I'm obviously just going to take a look at their Redux store and see exactly what's going on there. But for the most part, key press, once you're on this page, it should skip you forward. I don't know. What do you guys say? I have it at 30 seconds right now. What do you want to see? 5 seconds, 15, or 30? I don't know. Can I do a poll or something? This is me and streaming, everybody. I'm going to get better at this, I promise. Get better. Yeah, I don't know if I could do a poll, but either way, let me know what you think about that. If you're skipping forward with a 4 to 8 key press, do you want to skip ahead? What duration? 5 seconds, 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever. That will all be there. Also, people often ask for persistent playback speed. You're going to be getting persistent playback speed with this player. Another reason we're going here. It just gives me more control over it, stuff I want to do. So by now you're seeing yeah, Josh wants me to dance. There's no music here, and I got my daughter sleeping below me, or else I'd put some music on and start dancing. Okay, so here we go. I have code side by side here. This will be fun. I want to show you simplicity in React, modern React here. I have the old control bar and the new control bar. and I'm going to show you their play toggle versus my play toggle, and we're going to talk about them. One of them is using React hooks and context, and one of them is using Redux. So mine is on the left, theirs is on the right. You'll see a bunch of errors. Yeah, okay, I don't have prop types installed using TypeScript. And we have some fancy code to make React just exist in our projects. So we don't need React imports in our code because why do you need that? I don't need that. Who needs that? So also class names, don't use it. You don't need that library. Okay, so let's evaluate, or not evaluate, but let's look at their code. We have a basic function component that pulls out is playing, set playing, and player from context. On click, if it is playing, it pauses it and sets it to false. If it's not, play it, whatever. Then we just simply have some CSS, some styled components, and with a simple if it's playing, show the play icon or the pause icon. If it's not, show the play button. This is a styled button. I'm not sure why this exists. I think I was styling this at some point, but I don't know if I need to anymore. So who knows? That's as good as gone. Somebody's wondering what font this is. This is a font called Mono Lisa, which is, believe it or not, Google really doesn't want you to search for Mono Lisa because it just like corrects it every step of the way. Even if you type in Mono Lisa font, it's like Mono Lisa font? No, just stop. Okay, so this is my component. My component is 30 lines of code. It uses context to sweep everything under the rug. It uses one method here and then just some basic code. Now, taking a look at how they implemented it, and again, this is a totally valid everything here. It's just that they chose to use Redux and all this extra stuff. Not to mention class components. Ugh, don't get me started on class components. Not a big fan. So there's export default class. We have a constructor where we have to do this, handle click, bind this. We have to do this like ugly line of code just to do a handle click. Like that right there is reason enough for me to use function components right there. How annoying is that, huh? So we have this handle click bind, and then we have handle click. We have to pull out the actions from Redux, the player itself, and then we do the whole player's paused. And then instead of doing the player.pause, we do actions.play.pause. Now, it's really frustrating because this one, pretty basically, all it does is like calls 8 different functions that eventually calls player.pause Redux for you, you know. But we have then the render function, which pulls out the player, and it has the control text. I like their way of doing this up top here, player.pause, whatever. But since we're using icons, keep in mind, I do need to do tooltips. I need to do accessibility. This thing's a long ways off, so don't judge those things. And then there's just mess of class names. Again, I don't use this class names library. I know a bunch of people do. But here's another pet peeve I have with this library compared to some of the things that we're doing is that all of their animations are done through an exceeding amount of classes. Like the classes in this thing are crazy. Video play, control, whatever. Each one of these classes either shows or hides or does some sort of animation. You don't need that. And in fact, that's like, sure enough, that's a great way to take your product and move it to another platform. But to be honest, I would so much rather over here, you can see, do something like animate this, right? Rather than changing a bunch of classes. You can tell the scale, opacity, position, whatever. So they basically, after all of that, have just a button. So theirs is really just about the exact same as ours, but if you really look at it, theirs is the exact same as ours. But if you get rid of all the extraneous stuff, it's like get rid of this, extraneous, get rid of this is extraneous. Okay, this can exist, this stuff can exist, and now their component is 39 lines of code. Mine's 30 lines of code, and it's I don't know. You still have these actions and whatever, but okay, I'm getting off topic here. Basically, what I'm trying to say is functional components in React hooks are the best. And they're the best thing ever for writing super clean code. So this is the video player. I don't know what else to show on it. Maybe if you're interested, we could work together something to do this replay control. So replay control is the backwards time. People are saying they want a backwards time of somewhere like 5 seconds. 15 seconds never works, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. So let's go ahead and do a 5 seconds, which is easy enough. This would always be nice to have like a variable stored somewhere as a prop or something, but whatever. Again, this is my component, right? I'm not releasing this, or at least I don't intend to unless people want it. This is a player, the current time. All we're doing is saying, hey, if the current time is greater than 5 seconds or whatever. In fact, let's even refactor that to say const. This is going to be the jump time times 5 seconds. In fact, yeah, no, that's fine. We can say if the current time is greater than 5, jump. If it's greater than jump time, then subtract by jump time. Okay, jump time. Some really basic. I don't know why I'm using the mouse right here. Kill me. Okay, here we do. Player.current time is equal to the new time. By setting this, it updates the player. That's it. Super simple, right? And then once the interval kicks in, it jumps the player ahead. Okay, so this is the back button. This is really, really simple. We don't have to do any Redux anything. Why even bother? Works like this. Takes me back 5 seconds. But I want this thing to be an icon. So icon, yeah. So how do we make this into an icon? What is my approach for turning something like this into an icon, right? Because you'll look at these icons, and sure, they look fine, but like this is a stock icon right here, but you don't typically see that. Let me open up Figma. We can draw an icon in a couple of seconds here. It's really pretty nice. Hey, what's up? I'm a button. Okay, let's go here. Antonio wonders why we're not streaming on Twitch. I don't have a Twitch account. I have 300,000 followers on YouTube, and it just makes more sense to me. I don't want to have to like build a whole new audience on another platform for marginal benefits. And that's really it. Twitch is pretty dope, though. I would use it. Okay, so here's where I'm actually designing this thing, which it's not. I mean, this design is ugly, but I did build this microphone icon in like no time. But let's talk about how we could build another icon, such as one that goes backwards. Well, I would approach this by saying, here's a circle, right? We're going to do like a, oh, it looks like sorry, it looks like the streaming service is being wonky. Sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. Hang tight, everybody. I think it doesn't like Figma. Well, I'm going to put to bed that. Let's see if I do this a different way, if this works. Let me try this. Hold on, everybody. Sorry that the stream is wonky right now. I have Figma open, and I don't know if it's something like the graphics processor or graphics, whatever, with the service. I'm going to try and do something different. Application window, Figma, share. Project has changed, send to live. Give me 1 second. See if this works here. I'm trying this new service out. Hey, how does that work? That works. I think that works. And if I put my video on top of it, does that work, or does that break things? Okay. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Not sure why. I would go more into why OBS is bad in a little bit. It just stinks. It's no good. And I'm speaking specifically from a usability standpoint, not like a functionality standpoint. Functionally, it's fine. It's just there's just about 1,000 things I could rant on it about. Okay, so here we have this circle. And let's go ahead and add a stroke. We can make this stroke white, and we can say, hey, let's make the stroke about 5 pixels. Have I tried Streamlabs? I don't think Streamlabs works for Mac. Just about nothing works for Mac. In fact, I just recorded a whole Scott Tries video series on doing different streaming services, of which I landed on this one. So we're making this backwards arrow. You'll notice what I just did here is I created a circle, I click it, and then I click delete. Streamlabs does not work with Mac, at least not right now. There's a public or the private beta, or else I would get into that. So here we go. Got this thing, Figma. And I can select this line and I can say, hey, you, what should I do? I should have an arrow at one end of it. The triangle arrow, maybe not so good. Line arrow. Man, these are kind of rough. How do I get it to be on one only? You know what? I might not be able to. So let's go ahead and we have this here. I want this half circled. Ooh, yeah, this is not looking good. See, this is the icon making process here. Shout out to all of you who make icons because it's not really that fun or easy. If I do something like this, I think I can do a triangle as well. This is not going to be a good icon, but this is honestly how I make icons. I do this and then I tweak them up a whole bunch. So what you'll see in the end result isn't this. Let's rotate you a little bit more. Okay, sorry people, this is ugly ugly icon. And then we could also say like something like we're doing 15 seconds, or do we choose 5 seconds? I think we said 5 seconds. Maybe it's not a great idea to bake this number into the icon itself, but you know, whatever, we'll do it live here. Put a 5 in here, change the 5 to white. Somebody wants me to select the center point and its handles. Yeah, I guess it's fine. I got to smooth this one out a little bit, is really what it comes down to. I have a very specific look I'm going for, but obviously this is not doing it. Whatever. Like I said, I will fine tune this off camera because it's never great to try to troubleshoot these things or do surgery with the pen tool on the camera here. So either way, I have this 5, which is like giving me wonky stuff with the line height. 18 line height. Okay. This triangle also needs to rotate a little bit more. It's just not, it's not good looking. I'm sorry. I'm just making it worse. I'm sorry, everybody. Okay, so check it out. We have this arrow here. Arrow. We can tell the stroke to be round because round doesn't even look good. To be honest, square, I guess square looks better. I don't know. None of this looks good. But let's say I had this icon, right? Okay, let's just say that this icon didn't look like total garbage, which it does. What can we do here? Well, I did a union between those two shapes, so this is all one shape. I could select this, put it in a group, and once it's in a group, in Figma, believe it or not, you can do this copy paste as SVG. And then once it says SVG in your application, you can, I'm gonna head back to my code here, so see if I can do this without breaking the graphics. Because, oh, this application just loves me. Hang tight, everybody. Okay, so back in my code here. And let's say I wanted to just drop this in here. I cut that out as SVG, and I can just paste it in here. Now, granted, this is ugly. We have our own icon component. In fact, our icon component is just a basic switch statement with a bunch of component stuff in here. And if this is an icon I'll keep, which this is not, I will put it in there. But Gotta turn these things into reacty things, save this, and we're going to have ourselves a button in here, and it's gonna look terrible. But this is how I design and do all of the buttons in the site. You just do them in Figma, copy them as SVG. Oh, the whole thing doesn't look good again, so ugh, people, sorry. I don't know how to refresh this. Give me a second here to deal with this. Go Lightstream. Your application is fantastic, but it's not doing the right things right now. There we go. Okay, so we're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. I'm getting good at this. No, I'm gonna try. I guess as much as I like the Lightstream, I don't know if this is exactly fits the mold in terms of I don't know, stability that I'm looking for in a live streaming platform. Okay, so I click this and check it out. It's so fantastically ugly, but we do have this little back 5 seconds component now that works. I'm laughing at it because it's so pathetic. It's a really pathetic attempt, uh, but that's what happens when you're on live stream. But it works. Hey, that's fantastic. And again, all this is doing is just an SVG inside of a button that's setting the current time of the player to the current time minus the jump time, which is set to be 5 seconds. So that's it. That's really all I got here. So this is the new video player. This is the status of it. And hopefully I can show you a little bit more really soon. The things I'm going to be working on next is going to be making these buttons not look terrible for forward and backwards. We're using, actually it's funny, we're using Mono Lisa on the site. I might start using more mono fonts in the site. It's funny if we come here and I do this font family Mono Lisa, I really like it. I actually think I don't maybe like this in this specific use case, but I think it blends in really nicely with the fonts on my site in general, and maybe I'll have to use some mono fonts in the sites. But this is the player, and let me know what you think about it or whatever. It looks like it, to me, is really pretty nice. I like the visual aesthetic. I like the way it's going so far. And it's going to be able to bring in any features you want. So if there are any specific features that you want to see from this Level Up Tutorials video player, let me know. We're adding in the keyboard shortcut still. We're adding in persistent speed. I know that's a much requested feature, and we're going to be adding in obviously nice volume controls and stuff as well. Now the big bummer here is that it's not going to be an exact easy transition for us to move all of our content over to this new player. So unfortunately, it's only going to be sort of the newest courses for right now, and maybe we'll go back in time. So yeah, so this is it. If you are wondering a little bit more about the Cloudflare streaming, it's really interesting. I highly recommend checking it out. I'm really into it right now. They do a lot of neat stuff. Just the ease of use of this platform is exactly what I'm looking for in a video streamer, and it's really pretty cheap to stream with this this Cloudflare thing. I think it was like $1 per 1,000 minutes streamed, which is pretty great for me. But yeah, so check it out. This is the new video player. Let me know what your thoughts are, what kind of features you want to see out of this thing. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.